Hello, this is Danny Raymond, the voice behind Ray's Guide. In 3.24.2, we have new heads-up displays on every ship. These are described as manufacturer-specific, but in many cases, they are ship-specific. So I'm going to go through every ship I can reasonably get my hands on and analyze them. Partly so that if you own one of these ships, you will be able to see what your new HUD will be like, but also to talk about which ones have problems that CIG will be needing to fix in the months ahead. There's a chance that some of them could be fixed before they go live, but not all of them. I'm going to approach this more or less alphabetically and for the sake of time are excluding ground vehicles. As a result, the first ship we come up with is the Avenger, which is perhaps one of the worst of the entire bunch. It took me a moment to even realize that the HUD was on at all. The pale blue projection color provides too little contrast against the pale metal background, and these clusters of components essentially act as camouflage, making seeing the details of the little bars hard to see. Now, how to fix this? The entire base plate of the dashboard should be made into a dark flat metal, and those two areas above the monitor should be given the same dark flat metal covering with minimal details. Also, reduce glare off the monitor surfaces. Next is the Sabre Firebird, and most likely the rest of the Sabre line. The little indicators here are lost among the background clutter, and the two monitors are not fully visible. In certain circumstances, the two horizontal areas might be washed out. This row of switches here are non-functional in the UI, so their space can be used to lift the two monitors up to being fully in view of the pilot, and the remaining area used to give a dark solid background to the remaining areas, including lifting the indicator dots to be at the same level in the middle. You have to tilt your head down to see the two additional screens, but I am going to consider that okay as long as you have two screens fully visible in the default view. The Aero is better. The bright green color is much more visible, but there is room for improvement here, either to give more visibility to the lower set of screens or to move some of the horizontal bar to give more unobstructed view of space. The Pisces CAR, and I presume the rest of the Pisces line, the large bezel above the screens should be reduced, and the space used either give full view of the two screens and or to give a solid black background to the lower bar of the HUD elements. The Hornet Mark II. This is one of the better made ones, but these mostly unnecessary indicator lights can be moved down and to the sides, allowing the horizontal scales to be given a solid high contrast background. In addition, these indicators should be moved to the lower center and right of the central field of view. The Crusader C1, and I presume the rest of the Spirit line, move the indicator lights to the outside edge of the monitors and then move everything else down to have a dark solid background. You might also want to move everything inwards in order to make less overlap with the chat text. And now its bigger brother, the C2. Not bad, but you can move the side screen a little inwards so it doesn't block the actor status indicators. And if you're going to block this much of your view of space up here, make it worthwhile and give us an additional screen or two fully visible all the time. The Cutlass Black, and I presume the rest of the Cutlass line, at first I thought I had to put in an issue council report on this because they were missing. But then I realized that the Cutlass has an entirely different design, with these LED bars functioning as the speed and boost indicators. And that is super cool and very Drake, but I'm thinking that there's no reason why the LED strips have to be so narrow. They can and should be at least twice as wide. In addition, these two green eyes staring at you are prime screen space and should be used to put the indicators for gear, VTOL, etc. And when I got to the Cutter, I was disappointed that they didn't also use those same Drake bars as on the Cutlass. Also, the bright orange provides sufficient contrast, but the muted red used for the indicators does not. Use the bright orange for these, and that applies across the entire Drake line. The Vulture works very well, except it needs more contrast for those muted red buttons, and it would be cool if they centered the radar screen and then instead use the LED bars from the Cutlass on each side. The same thing applies to both the bottom end and the top pair of the Drake line, the Bucanner and the Caterpillar. Change the red to orange, move the screen slightly to the side, and put in those cool LED panels from the Cutlass. The Merlin, and I presume also the Archimedes, are super cool, no notes here, although they might have a contrast problem against bright sky or puffy clouds. The MISC Freelancer Max, and I presume the rest of the Freelancer line, Move the screens down and get them both entirely against the background of the dashboard, and the horizontal bars need more heft and contrast, and perhaps move them to all this unused space at the top if you don't want to use it to give an entire extra screen. The MISC Hull A does all these things well. Brightness, contrast, no elements overlapping. Some might say the two screens up at the top are too small, but I find them big enough to be readable on my monitor. On the other hand, everything that the Hull A did right, the Hull C does wrong. Cluttered background, weird skewed angles, overlaps. Here's what I would do if you want to keep the projected cockpit vibe. Put a piece of deep smoked glass across the entire bottom area so you get just a hint of the dashboard behind, and then project the entire UI brightly on that dark background, and perhaps steal those two upper monitors from the Hull A and slap them in here. The MISC Prospector. Normally, I would say the more screens the better, but this has so many overlap problems that I would suggest just going with two screens and have the other two screens outside the normal viewing area to the lower left and lower right. Also, integrate this weird instability warning light and button into the rest of the dashboard. I could see Drake just screwing in an extra box at the bottom, but this is a MISC ship, and their engineering is better than that. And then there's the Mirai Razor. Generally excellent, and in fact this is an example of using a smoked glass effect so that you can see slightly through the dashboard through the space beyond. And then we have the venerable Aurora, and this layout is excellent, but I have contrast concerns. These could be improved by increasing the upper and inside bezel on the screens, or if you don't want to completely lose the view of space, make the increased bezels be of that smoked glass material. And that covers all the ships I had ready access to. Sorry if your favorite wasn't included, but as you can tell, the issues fall into a few broad categories. Insufficient contrast, busy backgrounds, overlapping with other UI elements, and not being able to see the full extent of at least two displays. Probably the best examples were the Hull A and Merlin, and the worst examples were the Avenger and Hull C. But the people who are complaining based on their own favorite ship, or the one that they are streaming today, that the whole system should be reverted, are seeing this wrong. These are individual problems with individual ships that should be addressed with individual ship adjustments. And the system is clearly capable of doing that sort of ship-by-ship adjustments. And now for an update on my ship giveaways. First of all, we have that special membership level to help pay the cost of doing live coverage at CISACON with its own giveaway for the Hull C, that colossal cargo container carrying craft. And I've bought the materials and will soon be creating the recognition buttons, so the cutoff on the recognition buttons will be soon, even though I will be keeping the membership level open for the drawing right through CISACON. Plus, we have our regular Roller Channel ship giveaway for the Zippy Zazzy Zaftig Except for the Zeus 2 cargo, as well as further on the marvelous multiplayer multi-role mining meta, the Arasta. One entry per video, be a member for automatic entry with each video, or subscribe and comment, some are including the secret word. And the secret word for this video is the ship that, unlike the others, has a physical LED bar instead of the virtual display of speed and boost. Fly safe, keep it real, and I'll see you in the verse. This is Danny Raymond for Ray's Guide.